Getting back to the presidential race, all eyes are still on the battleground states. St. John's University political science professor Brian Browne is back with us today to talk about what happens now. And Brian, it's the same story and the same states that the presidential election will be decided in. In 2016, President Trump flipped Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, states that hadn't voted Republican since the 80s. The Associated Press says Biden won in Wisconsin this year. The rest are still up for grabs, as are other swing states. So what does the path to victory look like this year for each candidate? Walk us through it.
So right now, the path is narrow for President Trump and getting more narrow, and the path is widening for Joe Biden. Joe Biden needs 33 Electoral College votes to get to the magic number of 270. Trump needs 56. There's, I think, 87 that are still outstanding. So President Trump really needs to almost run the table on a lot of these undecided swing states, the Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, which could be a long process. And Joe Biden really just needs, Michigan and, to get some of these other ones that are still not quite solidified. And then he gets 270. So the Biden lane seems to be a wider lane right now. But all of this could end up in the courtroom.
Right. Now let's talk about how this presidential election is different from the last. The most obvious thing is the number of people voting and the mail-in ballots. Which candidate do you think is benefiting from these ballots? President Trump last night suggested votes stop being counted. And as you said, he may even go to the courts to get them stopped. And especially, it appears in Wisconsin, Biden benefited. What do you think?
I think Joe Biden and the Democratic Party did benefit from early voting. I think what you saw last night was some of the numbers that were coming in were really reflective of the day of voting, and that seemed to be more Republicans and President Trump supporters. And then as the night dragged on, you saw some of those numbers changing. But I mean, the real positive for both parties is the voter turnout, and that's a great thing for this country. But it also demonstrates just how charged and polarized the electorate is.
Sure. And, in Nevada, the election officials are saying they won't release all of their results until Thursday. In Pennsylvania, last night, they stopped counting ballots for the night. Are the states allowed to stretch it out like this?
Yes. The short answer is yes. The Constitution really empowers states to organize how they hold elections. I know it's not easy for a lot of American voters. We want our information fast and almost on demand. But we need to be patient. We need to have the process play out and have every ballot and vote counted in order to have a free and fair election. And it's important, a reminder for voters to remember that.
And, it's always interesting to watch the results come in. But many were arguing last night that they were calling states for Biden early while waiting to call states where Trump was ahead in votes. How do they calculate these predictions and when they make them?
Yeah, and that was, as a viewer, and I was flipping around to a lot of different channels, you were getting different numbers and different maps on different channels. But really, the states do it very differently. Some start counting and processing votes, early votes, as they occur. Others wait till election day. So you really have to drill down to each particular state. But the important part is that every vote is counted. And again, sometimes it's not made for good television, but you really have to let the process play out.
All right. And why are the pollsters still getting it wrong? Take Florida, for example. The polls said Biden was going to win, but Trump did. Same thing in 2016. The polls said Hillary Clinton was going to win. Trump did. Should we stop listening to them? And do they need to change the way in which they collect their data?
Well, something has to change because this is the second consecutive presidential election where the polls have largely been wrong. I don't know if it's a case where there's this shy Trump voters where Trump supporters are not necessarily responding to polls, or maybe just by their political nature, they're hard to poll or pin down. But clearly there's something amiss. And I think pollsters would be better served by just talking to regular people. And, I don't know how they're gathering their information, if it's all over the phone or email or whatever, but sometimes it's just going out and doing that kind of man on the street or person on the street type of interview to get a real idea of where people are, because whatever they're doing, it's not working.
Right. And if they're doing them over the phone, many people don't even have phones, so maybe they have to move with the times here. All right. Exactly. Thanks, Brian. We'll catch up with you later in the newscast.
Thank you.
If you're watching Currents News on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and then click on the bell to get instant updates about all of our newest content, because we are putting your faith in the news.